Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that tries to put those two things up against each other, Netflix versus cinema. Where are you going to spend your money? The way we do this is that we go watch films in cinema, watch films in Netflix, rate them out of 5, take an average, and we see who has won this week. My name is Tosin, and I am your host, based somewhere up in the Midlands, where apparently we do not get any good films. And joining me on the Isle of Wight are Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so yeah, I was just sort of like having a bit of a whinge because there seems to be all these films that you get to, like, okay, on this, anyone who's listened to this podcast has listened to us and we've moaned about how the Isle of Wight doesn't get some good films, and so Shaun has to get on a ferry, go across the water, go over to Bournemouth into a student town and get to see all these films. But now I'm beginning to think that I've got an even worse end of the stick than the island, because there's some films that I feel like are showing on the island that I'm not even getting anywhere in the not in the Midlands, but in near Coventry. I don't like this. Guys, I think we might live in some bad areas if we're going to be trying to do a film podcast.
Well, you'll have to look around. You might have to go a little bit further afield, Toes.
You mean, okay, so I've paid for an Odeon Limitless card. I have an Odeon Limitless card. You're trying to tell me that after I've paid for that, I might have to go to another cinema and pay money for a ticket to see a film.
How many screens are at your local?
My local cinema, there's 8 screens.
Oh wow! Well, they shouldn't they? Really?
Well,
the trouble is with the big movies is they put them on all the screens, don't
but
they?
You were saying, Toast, earlier that you get a lot of the Hindi movies and you get a lot of the non-English speaking language films.
Well, no, only
because if you've got like the community there, which we haven't really represented here, because we don't get any of those. So I was thinking the other day, if you want to watch a foreign language film, you cannot watch them at the cinema.
They have. I tell you what, in Bournemouth, which would be great, that they always seem to have a Polish film, and they have a Bollywood film, and they got a lot of Polish films. Because I've often tempted to go and watch them, but they've been at odd times. But they have a lot of Polish films at the Bournemouth cinema. Mind you, they've got like 5 studio screens and about 12 big screens. I mean, the studio screens are great because that's where I go and see. But most of the films that I go to see, which we don't get on the island, are in the
the little ones.
The little ones, they call them studios, but they're pretty nice.
Yeah, I think we actually, what we have over here is, okay, so we have the Coventry, because there's 2 Odeons close to me. There's the Coventry and there's the Nuneaton one. And the Nuneaton one is going through a bit of a refurb at the moment, where they ripped out, so there's 8 screens. They closed 4 of the screens, ripped out everything, and they made them like nice recliner things. And then they've closed off the other half, and they're ripping out everything and making those nice recliner things, so that it's going to become an Odeon Luxe, whatever that means. But so it means that at the moment the film choice is massively sort of like lowered, and I think it's going to be even worse next week when Star Wars comes out, because that's just going to take over the entire cinema. Let's be honest, it's good. So I found myself recently having to go into Coventry, because it's either a 5-minute drive or a 20-minute drive, and I've found myself having to go into Coventry to actually go and watch a film. And then sometimes they just don't have some of the smaller films there. Like, I think the Showcase Cinema, because I know, Shaun, you were asking me about a film called Loose, which was released, which I did not get to watch, because, as I was saying, I've already paid for my Odeon Limitless card. I don't see why I should have to go pay more money to watch a film.
No, it's fair enough.
Yeah, although, to be honest with you, I've got to be honest, I haven't had a Cineworld Unlimited card and an Odeon Limitless card. I prefer the Cineworld card.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You get more money for your...
Well, they cost exactly the same, but Cineworld does seem to get more films. I mean, I know that there was the whole Hateful Eight thing a couple of years back, but Cineworld, it does seem to get more films than Odeon does. And also, when you're doing your Meerkat movies 2 for 1,
Yeah.
You can go with the Cineworld Unlimited card, do Meerkat movies, get 2 for 1, and you get essentially 2 tickets because because the ticket that you get,
they both count.
They both count. You can't do that in Odeon.
Oh, that's a bit cheeky.
Yeah, you can't do that in Odeon, and so much so that Claudia, my wife, has stopped watching films with me in the cinema because I have an Odeon Limitless card. They won't let us use the Makeup Movies thing, and also if you go watch a film, they have a blockbuster charge. So if you're watching a blockbuster, like a film that they expect to be big, it actually costs more in the first 3 weeks of it being released.
Oh my God, really?
Really?
So that disincentivizes you from actually going with your membership card.
Exactly. The thing is, with your membership card, it doesn't make any difference. But if I go, like when we went to see Lion King, we went to see it on the first weekend it was released. And she went to the student card. She got the ticket and she was like, why did they charge me like $6.25 when it says up there it's supposed to be like £5? I went to ask them, it's because it's a new film. I was like, what? Is that, yeah, it's because it's a new film. And I actually went and I had a bit of a spat with them on Twitter. I was like, what the hell? And apparently that is the Odeon policy, that if it's a blockbuster film or film that I expect to be big, it costs more in the first couple of weeks than it does later on. So there's just a whole bunch of things. I'm looking at them going, oh, for goodness sake, I don't want to be here. I really don't.
Well, I'm glad I didn't get one because they got a massive Odeon in Bournemouth, brand new one. But they did have the card then. I thought, oh, should I get that for when I come over? But if that's what it is, I ain't gonna bother.
Yeah. No,
I mean, I've been a member of Cineworld since 2008, I think.
I broke my Cineworld membership when I moved up here, and I thought because the closest Odeon is further away, that's in Hinckley, and that's about half an hour drive. And so I thought,
my God.
Yeah. So I just thought that I'll just. But now I'm beginning to think, you know what? Maybe it's worth it. Maybe the extra half hour drive is worth it. But anyway, okay. Enough about what films we don't get and what films we don't. But this week we had quite an interesting thing happen, which is somebody got in touch with us on our Facebook page, and this is a lady called Alisha Pilkington, who is I haven't told you guys about this, but I'll just read to you what she said, and then I'll have it. So she says, "Hi, I'm a student journalist at Goldsmiths University of London, working on a piece about Netflix releasing their films in cinemas. I was hoping I could get a comment from you, since this issue obviously plays right into the foundation of your podcast. I'd only need a sentence or two, just talking about how you think releasing the films in cinemas changes the experience and whether it's worth it for the audience. Thank you so much for your time, Alisha Pilkington."
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes.
It's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, and so she got in touch with us yesterday, and I wanted to sort of like let us discuss it on the show, and then just give her the recording and be like, yeah, this is what we thought. Unfortunately, her deadline was 3 p.m. yesterday, but
oh no,
yeah, her deadline was 3 p.m. yesterday, so I wrote some stuff because I think this is the kind of thing we've spoken about before on the podcast. I wrote some stuff and I sent it through, because I know we have slightly differing views, and I sent it through to her anyway. But I thought, let's have at it anyway. A quick thing before we get into the films we're going to discuss this week. Have at it. What do you guys think? Do you think that Netflix gets a movie and it's a Netflix original, and okay, further on, I asked her to clarify, to say, it's like when she says changes in the experience, does she mean changes the cinema watching experience or changes the Netflix watching experience? And she says, changes the movie watching experience, as some directors have criticized Netflix originals as being TV movies, in inverted commas. So it's kind of about whether they seem out of place in theaters, or if being in theaters itself elevates the movie. So, what do you guys think?
I think you've got like this two-tier system, haven't you, almost? It reminds me in the 80s you had cinema releases, then you had direct-to-video. And it was like a new phenomenon, because before the 80s there was no such thing as direct-to-video. Everything was a cinema release, or it was made for television.
Yeah.
And so now we've got this whole, where it's made with cinematic values, but the platform it's intended for is basically effectively a small screen.
Yeah.
But it is made with cinematic values.
Yeah. So
they've got the budget and they've got the cast and they've got the skills to make it as high production as you want. So in terms of the quality, years gone by, you'd put a video in and you knew immediately this was a direct-to-video video because everything about it was cheap.
Be kind, rewind.
Yeah.
Have you seen that, Tosin?
I think.
No, I never saw that.
It's a good film.
Yeah,
but I think that has blurred the edges definitely a little bit, because you're getting these films that are packaged for a television platform effectively, but they have really high production values. And some of them, I think, this would have been quite good to see in a cinema, but it wasn't released in cinema. I was thinking of the one The King, the one about Agincourt. That would have been a really good cinematic experience because the battle scenes, they put the time into them and they made them look really good. But I only saw them on my television, and sometimes I only see them on like my tablet.
Yeah.
So you do lose something, I think, in the translation from the cinematic values that they made it in to your experience of watching it on a small screen. So I think, there is definitely an impact there on how we experience these films. I think you'd appreciate them more. I would appreciate them more if they had a
big screening. Yeah, I think what it is, but I mean, like lots of people, if you've got loads and loads of money, you can practically, with some of the TVs that now, they're like, they've got these curved TV screens. I should imagine that some of them, but it's going to cost you a load of money.
People do
have
cinema setups, but it's never the same.
It's not the same, no, because you've still got that. Oh, why don't we have a cup of tea? Or, hang on, pause it here. I want to go to the loo, and it's handy in some senses,
Or the phone's ringing. I better stop this and listen to. You don't have that immersive experience.
No, you don't have.
And I think it's that immersion in the experience of watching it, letting that take over, and then the world recedes, and you're just in the moment of watching the film. I think you don't get that anywhere other than the cinema.
No, and I have to be honest that sometimes when I've haven't felt like going out or something, and then I thought, I will go and see a movie, I've really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I've especially, I know this sounds really bad, I prefer it when there's not a lot of people.
Yes.
I really prefer when there's not a lot of people, not a lot of rush.
Well, you've got no distractions.
And I mean, a couple of the movies, it sort of really, really takes me back to when I used to go when I was really young and in my teens and in my 20s, and I just think, especially with some movies, and I really do enjoy the experience much more than...
Actually, I remember some of the films I've seen on my own in the cinema, or when there's only been like two people in the cinema. I have a much more vivid experience of those films than some of the ones where I've been when it's been packed. And because you do get like it's a personal screening almost.
I totally agree. You are immersed. You are concentrating. Whereas if you watch something at home, you're not concentrating quite so much.
Yeah, but that's why cinema hasn't died, has it?
I think it's the fact that when you're watching something at home, you can. I think Sean, you hit the nail on the head. It's like you can pause it. And it's like you can pause it, you can rewind, you can be like, oh, what was that line? I didn't hear it. I wasn't paying attention. Go back. And you can't do that in the cinema. I mean, it used to be that you could do this. It was the same thing when you're watching something on TV, but now you can pause live TV. So
that's it.
Yes. So I think I agree with you guys that it's different when you're in the cinema because you have to give yourself over to the film and to whatever it is the filmmaker is trying to say. However deep or maybe banal it might be, it's like you have to give yourself over to that because it's like, okay, cool. What's it, Martin Scorsese? I'm watching The Irishman in the cinema. You've got me for 3.5 hours. That's it. I need to sit down. But and in
I'm amazed with that how many people have said they've watched it in parts.
Yeah.
Amazed me, people. Yeah, I've watched that in 3 parts or whatever,
You see, now this is the thing, but when I said this to Alisha when she went in the response that I sent through to her, I mentioned the fact that that 2 of us had gone to see The Irishman recently. And first of all, if Netflix had not put up the money for it, that film would never have been made. So no studio would have put up the money to make The Irishman. So first of all, if you're saying, okay, it's got to be in the cinema, go and be in the cinema, that film would never be made. We would never have seen it. And number 2, I was like, because the film's almost 4 hours long, depending on start times, we've complained about how with even shorter films, start times have messed it up, and we haven't seen these films because the start times didn't work out. So by the time you looked at the start time of something like The Irishman and you'd actually gone, okay, I've got to put it in there, you thought about the 4 hours that was going to take out of your time, make it 5 by the time you've actually added on trailers and all that nonsense. By the time you put that on, I'm thinking that if this was in cinema, it's likely that we would not have seen the Irishman, quite frankly.
Well, I don't know. I mean, years ago, they used to have, when I was really young, and I'm sure you were the same, Sharon, is they would have an intermission in the film.
Yeah. They
would actually have films I seriously remember, and was Lawrence of Arabia, massive screen. I must have seen it in a few. Long film. They had an intermission, and you can actually see Battle of the Bulge. Remember that Battle of the Bulge? A bit tired now. Ben-Hur. They all had an intermission. And
my Fair Lady had an intermission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I mean, and they used to have at the start of the film, they would have the whole refrain of the movie, and it was like West Side Story, all of those. They would play the whole music for about 5 minutes before the film actually started itself.
Yeah.
And then you'd have the break, and they'd have this big screen, and the usher would come down with the ice creams in the little tray, or you could go out to the foyer, and then
We've become a less patient society, though, haven't we? We're not prepared to wait or prepared to put the time in. We want to have it at our convenience and in our terms. So you can see how Netflix exists, because it's necessary, because we live in a society where people don't have the patience to say, oh, there's only one showing today, I'll rearrange my day so that I can make that screening. And they're saying, no, I'm going to watch it when I want.
I always remember a film called The Wild Geese, and I think we did it on one of our other shows. I don't make it used to. There was an interview in that. It's the bit where they jump out the plane. It goes da 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 da, and I remember the break being in that, just as they so they got all the training, and it's like da 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 da, and then it comes up intermission.
There's an intermission in Independence Day. I think that's the last one I remember there being an intermission for a mainstream film in living memory.
Well, I'd love to see something.
We're still alive, but
Yeah, okay.
I'd love to see something like that again. Yeah, sorry, Tosin.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking though, because that's all well and good, but with Martin Scorsese and everything like that, I'm not sure he would have put an intermission in.
No,
I'm not. So.
But we did.
Yeah. No, you and I both did. I had my intermission about an hour in, and then then I watched it to really 2.5 hours. So this is. And I agree with you guys about the film watching experience. I mean, it was an experience that I didn't have growing up because we didn't have cinemas in Nigeria. And for me, it was a big, massive thing when I was 16 and I actually got to go to a cinema, and it was a case of, all right, yay, cinema, big, do. And I think that what you're talking about is that they used to treat it almost akin to like going to the theater, where you have the guy with the ice cream, you have the intermission and all, and make a big deal about it. And nowadays, there's not that much a big deal made about it. And I think then you also have the unfortunate thing about the fact that it's a business, and someone has to put up the money. So, like, you might have like your directors and everything like that complaining about the fact that, oh, this is my vision and no one's letting me realize my vision and all. But the truth is, what all directors are trying to do is that they're trying to play around with somebody else's money. They want to take somebody else's money and then play to make up their vision, which is it's inherently selfish. But someone has to put up that money, and none of the studios were going to put up the money to make a film like The Irishman. So if Netflix puts up the money, and if Netflix puts up the money, if Netflix, as Sharon, you were saying, gives as much effort and as much, they put in as much hard work and as much effort and as much expertise into making this film as anything that will be on the big screen, I do not see why that film should be looked down on just because it's not in cinemas, or maybe not in cinemas for as long as some other films. Or people say, oh yeah, that's not as good a filmmaking achievement. Because no, they put up the money. You wouldn't put up the money, so shut up. As far as I'm concerned. And as I told Alisha, I said, for me, I would rather have the film, regardless of what platform it is on, than not have the film at all. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I agree with that one. Yeah. So sure. Yeah, so I agree that I think the filmmaking, because there's two things. There's the filmmaker, what they want, and then there's the viewer, what we want. And I think, sure enough, for the filmmaking experience, when you go to the cinema, it is different. It is something, unless of course you have those people who we spoke about last week who play on their phones and put on their flashlights and crinkle their crisp packets really, really loudly and punch you. So it's special when you go to the cinema. But I think for me, I'm like, look, if they're going to put the money up and if they're going to put as much effort into making the film, then don't look down on it. Wow, that's it. Yeah. But anyway, that's me anyway. So okay. Yeah.
Hopefully that answers Alicia's question.
Yeah. So there you go, Alisha. We got, that's our views. With what
you wrote to her and what we've said, it's too late, but
it's too late.
To a picture.
I said that. I mean, because we know the way these things are. You know how people you star in a film, that you end up on the cutting room floor. I'm like, we might have given her that, and we might end up on the cutting room floor. We might not make it into our article. But I've said that if we do make it into our article, could she please send us a copy? It would be really, really nice.
Good.
Yeah, Alisha, hope you're listening, and I hope that we've encompassed enough for you about what we think when it comes to people looking down on Netflix movies and whether it changes the film watching experience. Right, let's carry on to the films we're going to talk about this week. Now, it has been a bit of in most cinemas, I don't really think that there's much out. I think about Jumanji, The Next Level is about the only thing that's wide across. And Shaun, you had to do the whole thing of getting on a boat, going across some water, going to a student town, and getting to watch some other things.
Yeah, I mean, it was really lucky because I went over, because I go over there quite a bit because my mother lives over there, and I go over to watch the Bournemouth games. Well, it was Bournemouth-Liverpool.
Yep. So
I went to watch Bournemouth-Liverpool at 3:00. And then I went home to mother's I had some tea and some toast and Marmite, which was very nice. Thanks, Mum. And then I got straight off and I saw the 5:45 showing of Honey Boy,
yep,
which is one of the films to be. And then there was like a 40-minute break till Lucy in the Sky. So, and where I went to, where the Cineplex is,
yep,
there's like a massive 24-hour Tesco thing. So I went and had a little look around there and I bought a few sweets. And I went back and I watched Lucy in the Sky. Yeah, so it was really, really, the timings were really right. You know, it actually worked out really good. Football, Honey Boy, Lucy in the Sky.
Cool.
And some toast and Marmite to boot. For those that...
Well, toast sounds nice, but Marmite.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Okay.
So that was really good. So because there wasn't a lot out, I figured that I would, we'd see some other stuff. But as it is, I've seen a couple of others now anyway. So
I went to the cinema with my arm firmly twisted at the back.
You did, yes. Oh yeah,
I did go to see Charlie's Angels.
You did, yeah. We wanted to know your thoughts.
Oh yes.
I did, yeah.
Okay, so don't tell me because I really my whole thing ever since I've seen Charlie's Angels and I've been going on about how I really want to talk. I want to talk to women about this film, and I'm so surprised that of all the films that have been released this year, this is the one that makes me want to have a serious conversation about gender politics. But what I want to do is I want to get you and Holly, our London correspondent, is watching it this weekend, and at some point next week, I want if we can work in the schedule. So I want to get you, Holly, and I want to have a chat with you guys about it.
Cool.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I can save my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Save your opinion. I want to hear. Yeah. Anyway, never mind. And I think next week, because we're gonna have next week is pretty much going to be the Adam Driver show, because I'm not sure if anybody else has been. There's this film called Marriage Story, which Netflix is shoving in your face at the moment. Every time you log on, it's like Marriage Story. Watch Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, because this is one of these films which was in cinemas for a blink and you miss it second. It's being touted for Oscars and all that kind of stuff, and Netflix have got their hands on it. So Netflix and there's 2 films that have been released in the last week that were over the Adam Driver movies. One of them is called The Report, which was in cinemas for a blink and you miss it thing, and then all of a sudden showed up on Amazon, and Amazon will shove it in your face going, watch this. And Marriage Story, which is going to be watch this. And of course, next week we're going to have Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, which is just going to be everywhere. So it's like Adam Driver, Adam Driver week.
Which I have to say, apart from Kylo Ren, I really rate highly.
Oh,
I think he's great, Adam Driver. I really liked him in Black Klansman. I thought he was first class, and he was okay in The Dead Don't Die. He was sort of very deadpan in that. So, I mean, but I don't like him in the Star Wars film.
Okay, we'll leave that till next week. But but did we decide, Shaun? Because Lucy in the Sky. We have an also ran section. So we have 3 rounds where we talk about Netflix. We talk about cinema, film, Netflix film, cinema, film, Netflix film, cinema, film, Netflix film. And every now and then we've ended up watching too many things in a week, and we have to put things in an also ran section. So did you decide that we're going to put Lucy in the Sky in an also ran, or we're going to keep that for next week and talk about it next week?
Well, I mean, I don't mind, really. I don't know how we want to go. It's one of those films that it might still be around, but I think it will go very, very quickly. So we can keep that, because, I mean, I've watched loads, I mean, I've seen Motherless Brooklyn, and so we're going to have to, because I think, Sharon, you're going to have to decide, right? I know, it seems me. You've got to decide out of them. I mean, I can mention them in also rans if you want to. But I mean, I really want to do Honey Boy, really, really.
I think this has good potential. I think we should save it till next week, because even if we don't watch it at the cinema, it's going to be appearing on a platform near you very soon.
And it would be quite good. Okay, so we'll save that till next week. Okay.
An executive decision. Lucy in the Sky is being waited till next week.
That's being waited till next week.
Okay, we have 3 pairs.
So Lucy in the Sky, we're waiting till next week.
Yes.
We're going to wait till next week.
We have 3 pairs.
Yeah. What about Motherless Brooklyn.
You're doing that next week.
Oh, I'll do that next week as well. Okay, that's cool. No, that's cool. We can do that. We can fit that in. We should perhaps on odd occasions we could do 4.
Yeah,
but not now. We'd stick with this.
We have done in the past.
We have done in the past, yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is that I don't think we have enough Netflix stuff. We haven't seen enough Netflix stuff to actually...
Okay.
To get the match pairs.
Yeah. Okay, all right then.
Okay, cool. So let's kick off, because this is one of these weird weeks where I think every single film we're talking about, only one of us has seen it. So we have 6 films and only one person has seen it.
I've seen Jumanji. I watched it last night.
You've seen Jumanji.
You saw
I watched it last night, yeah.
Okay.
I saw the late show at 9:00, so I have actually seen Jumanji.
All right.
And it's fresh. That was last night after. I got back really late and I showered because I was so cold, and I was in some duds, and I thought, I thought I'm going to go to pictures, because I really, like we were saying about the immersive experience.
Yeah.
And it was great because it was in Screen 1, which is the big screen, and I was in the front row, and there weren't many people there. I was late
ripped by what's going on in the world, so I had a very late night. And so I didn't go out at all last night.
Oh, right, okay.
I had the television on literally till 3 in the morning. No, literally, it was till 3 in the morning.
Wow.
But I won't talk about that.
No, we're not. That's yeah.
So Jumanji, the next level.
Jumanji, the next level, yes.
I actually totally forgot about that.
Well, you were having your Christmas do.
Yeah. Okay. So for everybody who's wondering what we're talking about, because you might be listening to this, we're recording this on the 13th of December. Hang on, this is 13th. Yeah, we're recording this on the 13th of December, 2019, the day after a general election in the UK. So yeah. Anyway, as I said, let's just move on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna kick off with Jumanji: The Next Level, which Sean and I have both seen. Now, this is a sequel to Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and which was like a continuation of the Jumanji franchise that was kicked off with the Robin Williams movie back in the 90s. So in this one, it's a video game, and people get sucked into a video game, and then they go through the whole usual Jumanji thing, which is that you have a whole bunch of essentially obstacles that are trying to kill you. Let's put it that way. And you have these kids who get sucked into this video game, and they end up being put into avatars played by The Rock, Karen Gillan, Kevin Hart, and Jack Black. And then this film, essentially, it's a sequel, so it just kicks off all over again. Now, and that's basically the idea. Sean, you went to go see this. What did you think of it?
I did. Yes. Okay. So this film, it was. I watched the other. I was really surprised by the first Jumanji sequel. I was really, really surprised how much I enjoyed it, and it was really, really good. And I thought, this is going to, have to take this. I don't think this is going to be so good, because it made a lot of money. So I reckon this one probably won't be quite so good.
Yep.
But I have to say, and to start off with, I thought, where's this going? Because you've got sort of Danny Glover and
Danny DeVito.
And I'm thinking, where's this going? Danny DeVito, that's it. So you've got those two, and they're like old mates, but they've had a falling out or whatever, and they're just trying to get back together, and then they're actually taken into the game as well. So, but obviously you can imagine, a bit like me, they don't know what's going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can, and I mean, I think the guys that are playing the avatars or the game, are having so much fun playing it.
They are having a lot of fun.
Yeah, because Danny Glover. Yeah, Danny Glover. He's like really slow talking. It's like and takes a long time to get to anything like that. So do you know what? I really enjoyed this. I was actually chuckling out quite often, and quite a few occasions actually. I thought it was. So yeah, I was mildly surprised. I thought it was a really, really good movie. I really enjoyed it. It was nice. It was chuckles.
I quite liked it. I really, really liked it. And I think for ages they've talked about how they've been struggling to make a video game movie or make a good movie adaptation of a video game, and I think like this sort of Jumanji thing is the way forward, because there's bits of it where it really does feel like there's a bit with a whole bunch of mandrills who are chasing them on all these bridges that float, and you have to jump from one bridge to another, and I was like, that is totally like a Nintendo Entertainment System game I used to play in the 80s. That is like, I recognize this feels like a video game, and I think this approach is really, really, and they're going to be doing it with another film called Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, but I really liked it, and I love the fact that they because they didn't, obviously you can't just retread what happened in the last film. So you can't just sort of say these kids, they go into this thing, these are the different avatars, they go through the whole thing. So they changed the world. So because there's a bit where there's actually parallels. This is kind of there's a bit of this that's a bit Black Mirror light. Like there's an episode of Black Mirror called Striking Vipers, which is all about people go into a game and they have this different life and everything like it. And this film starts off with a little bit of that about how this guy Spencer, he isn't happy with his life, and he thought that when he was in the game in the first film, he liked the feeling of being this character, so he wants to go back into it. And that is very sort of Ready Player One. It's very that episode of Black Mirror. And there's little bits of this that sort of like are seeded throughout the film that says that maybe it's hinting at something bigger. But first and foremost, it's supposed to be like a thrill ride. It's supposed to be like almost like a sub-Indiana Jones style thrill ride.
Yeah, it is as well. And as I say, that you've got some added characters as well. You've got some added characters. I mean,
they've added in some characters.
Ming Awkwafina, which
Ming
like
Fleetfoot.
Yeah. He's like a lockpick and safecracker, that sort of thing, and that. And with the switching around, because there's quite a lot of switching around going on and stuff.
Yeah, they have the whole thing where they switch from one body into another. You have all these actors
until they sort themselves out. Yeah. But this Ming, back to this Ming, she, what? Yeah, I mean, it was like, you could actually see the character she was. Yeah, you know what I mean?
The funny thing about
she played it so well. Brilliant.
The funny thing about it is that you had bits where you had Jack Black, because in the first film, Jack Black was like the MVP, because Jack Black was playing, he was playing like, a sort of teenage, like, prom queen. And Jack Black is hilarious in the first film, because you're like, oh my God, I never thought Jack Black would have been the perfect choice to play a teenage girl. And in this film, you have bits like where you have Kevin Hart goes from playing an old man to playing somebody else, and there's a scene where Jack Black is playing a black teenage football star, and in the same scene, it goes from Jack Black playing a black teenage football star, which he gets away with the way he does it, to Karen Gillan playing a black teenage male, 6-foot football star, and Jack Black playing like, a neurotic teenage girl. And it's just kind of like, you're going, oh my God, these guys are having so much fun, and they're pulling it off. And like,
that's what it looked like.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. And I think Kevin Hart's doing his Danny Glover impression is hilarious. It's like, I appear, definitely. It's like I appear to have turned into a muscular small Boy Scout.
That's right. Yeah. That's a hippopotamus.
Yeah. Interesting thing about the hippopotamus.
Yeah.
And you have that. I think out of all of them, The Rock playing Danny DeVito is the one that does not work as well.
I have to say, I totally agree with you on that, Tosin.
It does not work as well, and it's thrown into sharp relief, as you said, because it's a bit later on in the film where Awkwafina plays Danny DeVito, and the way she does you're like, whoa.
I mean, even the way she's good, because the way she walks, like Danny DeVito's got that little penguin-y walk. She even got that, you know what I mean? So it's like, she gets the walk down and everything, and you're like, whoa, oh my God, this is serious. So I think it's a lot of fun. It kind of knows what it is, and it tweaks the formula enough. Oh, there we are. So it tweaks the formula enough so that it's not just a retread of the first film. That there's actually a couple of different things in there. There's bits about like, friendship and like, not letting time go by. There's a little bit of a message about
friendship, about being yourself, about like, trying to escape into a game because you're not happy with your life, all that kind of stuff. And I've thought about this hard at all that, and even this is a weird thing where after watching the film and talking about the film now, I'm actually feeling happier about the film than I did when I was watching it, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's like the film is growing into my estimation. I think I'd have to give it a high 3. It's a very high 3, but I don't quite think it's a 4.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've got this thought as well, but high 3. But I am going to, because I enjoyed it so much, and I actually had chuckle out laughs. Yeah. I was laughing quite considerably, which was which was quite surprising. So I'm going to give it a 4. Sorry, it's a 4 for me. This
cool.
I enjoyed it that much, and I enjoyed it more than the first one. Actually, the second sequel. Cool. Yes, I did. Yes.
Good stuff.
I know. Surprised there. I'm surprised. I'm even surprised at myself.
I do intend to watch this one.
But I did it. I do agree with you. Didn't quite work as The Rock. Danny DeVito didn't quite work as The Rock.
No, yeah, I don't think it didn't quite work. I mean, I liked the ideas of what they did, and I liked the sort of character, like the fact that when he gets into the game, he's like, "Oh, my hip feels amazing."
Yeah.
I like that, but I think of the different things where you had a character in the game acting like a real life person, that was the one that didn't work as well. But but yeah, cool. So that's that, and now we move on. We move on to In Like Flynn. Now, this is something that you saw last week, Sean. We had seen.
Yes.
Last week we had the opposite thing where we'd seen too much stuff on Netflix, so we had to move stuff to this week. And now In Like Flynn, I had a little quick like this because when you wrote this, I originally thought you got it wrong and you were talking about In Like Flint. But then I looked up and I realized, oh no, this is an Errol Flynn movie. This is right up Sean's alley. So Sean, do you want to kick off by telling us tell us what Errol Flynn means to you, and then you can tell us about the film.
And I think Sharon to a degree. Well,
Sharon's brother. I have a long relationship with him.
Okay, so In Like Flynn, Errol Flynn was like my hero as a young boy. My hero as a young boy. I mean, I never got to see these films at the cinema, but they were standard fare on TV at Christmas.
The Adventures of Robin Hood.
The Adventure of Elizabeth
Essex, Don Juan.
I see, you know them all. Seahawk. But he is, right, because the film that came out in 1938, which Robin Hood, like you were talking about, Welcome to Shia, my lady, is where, and I think ever since then, Robin Hood has looked like, in wearing green tights, you know what I mean? Just like the men in tights with the little green cap. So, and he's like a super, super swashbuckling. He was in a lot of swashbuckling movies.
If you've seen the Disney Robin Hood, that's where there is just a complete copy of.
So they are, and Men in Tights, Robin Hood, Men in Tights. And I mean, really, if for all you younger listeners, if there's some younger listeners, just check out some of these films because they are really great, brilliant adventures. Yeah. And I remember I must have been about 7 or 8, and it was a Christmas time, and they had the Adventures of Robin Hood. Do. Anyway, and I was just like, whoa. Probably part that gets which got me into the movies. And was brilliant westerns as well. Dodge City, Virginia City. They died with their boots on, where he played Custer. Yeah. So anyway, Errol Flynn was this huge, big box office star. Really, really good looking. Had a bit of a reputation for the ladies, and there was a bit of a scandal. Well, a few scandals really. And if you ever heard of David Niven, he writes. He's written an autobiography called The Moon's a Balloon, and he was really good friends with Errol Flynn. It's worth a read. It's a good read about old Hollywood type stars. So anyway, so you got Errol Flynn, who's this like, well, he was a superstar in his time, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, biggest star on the planet.
Fairly typecast though, I think, which upset him a little bit.
He didn't like doing all the westerns, did he? He preferred doing the adventure stuff.
Yeah, and he liked to be classed as a serious actor, but he couldn't get away from that. He couldn't get away from that swashbuckly adventure.
He was just too good at it.
Just too good at it, yeah. And I mean, he had the right thing. So anyway, so that was Errol Flynn, and the film In Like Flynn. Okay, well, In Like Flynn. The expression
In Like Flynn is an expression that came about when he was alive because of all his amorous exploits.
Amorous exploits and getting into trouble. I mean, there was one where he was accused a few times of doing some, Anyway, so back to this. So In Like Flynn, I thought, oh, this is interesting. I need to watch this. And it takes part, and this is about before he becomes that actor. So it starts off, he's like leading an expedition in New Guinea, and he's like the guy's a producer, a film producer, and he's got a film, and they go around, they film the wildlife and all that. And he says, oh, one day, you should come to America and try out in the movies. And anyway, so it goes that far. There's a few adventures, there's a few narrow escapes, and then it's about his early life where all the adventures he goes on, like a boat. He's got, he gets a boat.
He's passionate about sailing, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
He's passionate about sailing.
Yeah. And so he gets a boat and he goes gold prospecting and stuff. And it's about some of the characters he meets. He meets like all these characters along the way. He gets into boxing fights, prize fighting, and he's in Townsville and they won't let him go because he's beaten this boxer that he shouldn't have beaten. And it's just all the stuff that his life basically.
He wrote a couple of books as well. It's based on his. It was slightly fantasized, but he did write an autobiography that was a little bit embellished in places.
Yeah. Because I think you said your brother watched this as well, didn't
he? Yeah, because he's essentially like the definition of rabble-rouser or hellraiser or something like that. Yeah,
definitely that. Yeah,
absolutely.
He certainly led a colourful life.
Tasmanian, they called him the Tasmanian Devil.
Yeah, well, originally he was classed to be in the early part with Robin Hood and that he was an Irishman. So he was apparently he was from Ireland.
Oh yeah, they made up all sorts of things about him.
So yeah, what they used to do, the Hollywood system, Yeah,
they'd created history for you.
That's it. Yeah.
And he did do a lot of theatre in this country as well. He did repertory theatre in Britain.
Yeah. He was, as I say, I think there's a film called The Sun Also Rises, which is, it's sort of critically acclaimed and it's quite serious, and that it's about a drunkard, because I think he was a bit of a lush. He did.
There's the Peter O'Toole film about.
Errol Flynn's only My Wicked Ways.
Yeah. And there's also a film about they fictionalised it, but when he was older and he was an alcoholic, he used to be given these bodyguards or these like chaperones, basically, who his job was to keep him sober so that he could actually film his parts. And then he basically would send these. They were like teenage boys or young men, and he basically like corrupt them horribly. And they would be like drunk before the morning was over because they were like trying to match him, and he would basically drink them under the table. And there was My Perfect Year or something. There was a film that Peter O'Toole's in, and it's based on Errol Flynn.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the one where he does like the acrobats and stuff. But there's also, I obviously, because he was my hero, I used to read a lot about him. But there's one. He made a film called San Antonio Western with an actress called Anne Sheridan, and they reckon and the story is that they were like drinking ice water because it was really, really hot. But in fact, it wasn't ice water at all. It was just like neat vodka, and they were just like drinking neat vodka all the way through film, and then gradually the lines become slurred and everything like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're almost out of time allocated to this film.
Yeah.
So
In Like Flynn.
Yeah.
It's about his early life, and he was a real rebel-rouser. And he did actually go to New Guinea. He was an explorer. He was an adventurer.
He did all sorts of things.
Yeah. Before he became a Hollywood star, and then the end of the film basically gets a letter saying, "Oh, come to Hollywood to try it for this film." And then you see a shot of Captain Blood, and he's dressed up which was like his breakthrough film. Yeah. So Captain Blood, and like with somebody who's supposed to be Olivia de Havilland, in his arm, and that's how the film ends. And it is a really, really. It's a fun film. It's not. It's an adventure film. It's a bit of. Well, in fact, it's probably a little bit like Jumanji, really, without the baboons and the ostriches. So, because a lot of it takes place in the rainforest of Australia and northern Queensland and New Guinea and places like that where he's going, and there's pirates, and big bruisey blokes and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's a bit of a romp. It's a bit of an adventure. It's good fun. It's like Jumanji.
So what would you rate it then?
I'll probably have to give this. I don't know. This is a really, really tough one for me. So I'm just going to say it wasn't absolutely brilliant, but it was good. So I'll give it a solid 3. I'll give this one a solid 3.
Well, yeah.
I'll vote on my brother's behalf. My brother saw this and he really enjoyed it, and I quizzed him about it gently. Yeah. And he thought, he didn't look much like Flynn, but he really enjoyed it. He thought it was a good film. And so I think my brother would give it a 3 as well.
3, yeah. Oh, that's good. Good. I was hoping you were going to say that. So.
All right, cool, good stuff. Because to be honest, they're onto a loser already. Because you guys love Errol Flynn so much that if you're going to try and do something that is Errol Flynn, it's just a bit. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only time I've seen him portrayed on screen before was Jude Law in The Aviator.
Oh yeah.
Well, but anyway, never mind. So now, Shaun, we come back to you. We come back to your wisdom as we go back to cinema, and we ask you about Honey Boy. Now, this is Honey Boy was something you saw on the mainland, and stars somebody who I think is becoming a bit of like a favorite of yours. This is Shia LaBeouf, isn't it?
Shia LaBeouf, yes, he is. Do you know? I really, really, really rate this guy. I really rate this guy. I know he's an oddball, and I know he's done some strange and weird things, and probably been arrested a couple of times. But I still think he's great. I loved him in Fury. I loved him in American Honey. You know, and so obviously he's very high in my estimation.
Yeah.
Now, it was just the case. I mean, reason for seeing this was because I was over the mainland. I probably wouldn't have even. Well, I didn't even know about this film, to be honest. I didn't. And I just was looking along and I thought, Honey Boy, what's Honey Boy? You know, and same as when I went to see Lucy in the Sky. You know, and it was like, oh, Honey Boy. Oh, that looks interesting. And it was on at a good time for me to watch. So sure enough, I went there. Do you know? Sometimes I could think I must be really lucky because, I mean, Tower Park, where the cinema is, it's like a massive complex. There's bowling, there's Tesco's, there's all sorts of stuff, gyms. And I just found a parking space straight away, which I'd never really done before. I just turned in there and thought, oh, look at that.
There's one.
Right by, just a nice little walk to the cinema. They've even got a Taco Bell there, Toes. They've even got a Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, so yeah, back to this film. So, yeah, Shia LaBeouf, and it's based, and he's actually... He's written this piece. He did the screenplay.
Yeah.
And it's basically the story of his life as a child and his relationship he had with his father, and Shia LaBeouf actually plays his father. You know, he's playing his own father as he was. And he's also a chaperone. So basically, his dad has to take him. He's a child star. And he has to take him to like the movies. He's supposed to be the chaperone, make sure he's all right. And his son pays the dad, so because his dad's got a bit
because he was a child star. He was in Holes.
He was like Even Stevens and all stuff like that. And there was a little bit. And the guy who played him, was absolutely brilliant. Who played the young lad as well? He was great. Noah Jupe, is it?
Oh yeah. Noah Jupe.
Noah Jupe. Yeah,
he's having a good year. A Quiet Place, A Quiet Place, Le Mans '66. Now this.
Yeah. So, and you know, he's an English actor as well, but he's absolutely brilliant in this. So anyway, he's a child star, and his dad's got a motorbike, and his dad's real hippie. He's like something out of Tom Cruise in 4th of July when he becomes against the war. Yeah. So he's got the motorbike, he's got the bandana, he obviously lets, I mean, the lad's supposed to be 12, but he's letting him have a cigarette. He goes, oh, you know, can I have a cigarette, Dad? And he's not the best of fathers. He's not the best of fathers, but I think I would have quite enjoyed him as a dad, to be honest. And but what's quite interesting is, from watching this film, I actually went on YouTube and there's an interview with Shia LaBeouf on Jimmy Kimmel, is it?
Yep.
And he's saying, he goes, yeah, my dad, and they were asking, they said, what does your dad think of this film? He said, oh, well, he didn't want to watch it, but he said, I watched my dad watching it on like the computer, on a computer screen watching it. And he said he didn't say much about it, but he thinks he probably enjoyed it. So, yeah, and he loves his dad anyway, but his dad's but Shia LaBeouf plays this really neurotic, you know, there's quite a lot of swearing, and he lets his boy have cigarettes and stuff, you know, and there's also this little odd scene with because they live on like a motel sort of complex, and there's some other relationships and odd stuff. But man, this is a great film. Really, really, really terrific movie. I mean, I guess, I was thinking about the other day, I think of all the films I've liked, like this, and Lucy in the Sky, and then there was last year there was Leave No Trace, and you've got all those films. Yeah, I think a lot of these films you could probably watch on Netflix or TV, and it would be okay. But they're just really this whole immersive cinema experience. When you're in the cinema, totally concentrating on these films, you know, which is different. Because if I'd have watched this on maybe Netflix, it might not have had such an impact. But because I was in the dark. Yeah, watching this film, really, really concentrating, thinking, "Wow, that's fantastic. That's great." You know, the lad was, I don't know, it was just a really, really good film. I was like really, really pumped for this movie. You know, and it's not like there's no effects, there's no shooting, there's no, you know, it's Well, I just can't say enough about this film. I was blown away by it. I really was. I was like, oh wow, I'm really, really pleased I've seen that. Yeah.
So just nice, simple father-son story.
Yeah. It's. But what I mean is, it's not like those big, massive Jumanjis or Star Wars or anything like that.
No, there's a place for the different types of films, aren't there?
So, and I think actually seeing this at the cinema, and they're fairly small screens, the studio screens, and there was no one there, so I was totally concentrating on the film, you know.
So just a bit intimate.
Yeah. Oh, his dad. His dad sort of grows marijuana, you know, and he's like growing it on the freeway, you know, like with the because he's saying, oh, you know, the municipal company they've got like the sprinklers, so they're watering it all, and you know, so he goes off there, and so you've got them in the middle of the freeway all going on. There's this big place.
So sure, the way you're talking about it sounds a little bit like, you know, something like the Florida Project or something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely in the same vein as the Florida Project and American Honey.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed this film. So
how many stars did you give it?
Okay, I'm going to give it a 4. I'm going to give it a 4, not a 5, because I think a 5 would be too generous, you know. But it's a really, really high, solid 4 for this movie. I really, really liked it. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, and there's a lot of swearing.
And I'm guessing it's one of those things where
a little bit of drug use.
I'm guessing it's one of those things where not much happens.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot. You know, the things that do happen, but there's a lot of interaction between the characters. Lots of interaction, and I guess that's, you know, I've been thinking this, Tosin. All the films I like is where there's a lot of interaction between people, and that was the best thing I think about Knives Out was when the people interacting with each other. So I'm going to give this a solid 4 stars. Definitely 4 stars here.
All right,
big one.
So that's 4 stars for Honey Boy, and cool. And now we go back to Netflix and Friends. And Netflix and Friends, we're going to talk about, this is me, and instead of Netflix, we're going to be talking about Amazon Prime. And talking about a documentary that I saw called Andy Murray Resurfacing. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about Andy Murray or anything like that. I've mentioned before.
It's tennis. Is that the one is that the English tennis one that was Scottish?
English.
Or Scottish.
Scottish.
Yeah, that's the one that was moaning about. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest with you, Toes. I'm not a major tennis fan. You know, I mean.
He always had a reputation of being a very chippy Scot, didn't he?
Yeah.
Throughout his early career, he was just a chippy Scot who was always a bit like, oh, you horrible English. And then he won Wimbledon and everyone sort of loved him. I mean, yes. And they turned around. His whole relationship with the British public really turned around at Wimbledon and about the time of the 2012 Olympics. It was a real turnaround for him.
I mean, these documentary type ones, I'm assuming it's a documentary type ones, I do quite like. I mean, I'm not a major sports fan, but I did like the one they did on Senna.
Oh, yeah,
and the Maradona one.
Yep.
So, you know, I really, really enjoyed those. Is this the same sort of type of film?
It's kind of like that, but obviously the difference is that this isn't being done in like retrospect. This is actually just being. It's like there's someone who actually followed him around for the best part of a year, or actually for probably over a year. There was a lady. I can remember her name, Olivia something. It's like Capuchin. I'm sorry, but she follows him around and she makes this film about him because. Now, you talk about Errol Flynn and you talk about him being like, you know, your hero and everything like that. I'm big into tennis, so I've been following Andy Murray. I've seen everything that he does and everything that people have said about him. Like, you know, Sharon, you were alluding to the way the public or the newspaper spoke about him as like, you know, the chippy Scot and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Because he made a joke once when he said, "Oh, I want anybody but England to win the World Cup," and then they were like, "Oh, how very dare you!" And then it came, and it pretty much came up to like, "Oh, how dare you? We pay your money," and it's like all that kind of rubbish. and so since then he's kind of like, you know, retreated into himself, and he's known for being quite dour. And 2019, this was a year that kicked off, and I remember in January 2019, January, I love it, it's my birthday, it's around about that time the Australian Open also starts, and Australian Open this year, Andy Murray had been out for a while with a hip injury. He was number one when he got the hip injury. He'd been away from the sport, he hadn't really played for 18 months, and before the Australian Open, he came out and he pretty much said, "That's it, this year I'm going to retire, because my hip is in too much pain, I can't play, and I might have to have an operation just to have a good quality of life, just so I can play with my kids." And I remember that kind of ruined my January. I remember for some reason being so sad, because I was like, oh my, this guy has worked so hard in an era where he has like, Roger Federer and what's the other guy, Nadal and Djokovic and all these guys, and they're the more fancied ones, and he's worked so hard to actually even have a chance to go against them. And now the fact that his body's going to let him down and he's going to have to retire, and that really, really sort of like that put me in a funk. And I was like, why am I in a funk? I'm not even, it's not my life, but still it put me in a funk on his behalf. And this is essentially the title of the documentary, Resurfacing. There's a double meaning, because he had to have this operation, which is referred to as a hip resurfacing operation. And the way they put it is that it was about him just trying to have a better quality of life. Now, it wasn't about him trying to get back to the top of tennis. And also, it's all about the fact that he's been away for a while and now he's coming back up. So he is resurfacing. See what they did there. Yeah. And it goes behind the scenes. It's like, it talks about, it's probably more access than we've ever seen with Andy Murray. He's talking about why it means so much to him to play tennis. I mean, a lot of the deal has been, because do you remember the Dunblane shootings?
Yes, a long time ago.
Yeah, he was actually...
Absolutely, I remember them, yeah.
Yeah, he was actually a student at that school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a student at that school. He and his brother, and there's bits of the documentary where he's talking about the fact that, yeah, that was like, a key part of his life and why tennis means so much to him, because he was in the school the day when the shooting happened. He says that they knew the guy who did the shooting, that they'd taken him, they like dropped him off at the train station. He'd been in the car, he'd spoken to his family and all that kind of stuff. And like, he's a kid of around about like 12 years old and doesn't understand why the heck this is happening. So it's like a lot of access to Andy Murray, a lot of what goes on behind the scenes for like, a professional sports person and what they're having to go through. And there's just a lot of really, really sort of emotional bits where he's having to face the fact that this might be it, that this might be the end, that and he has to fight the fact that this might be the end of my career, but I don't want it to be the end of my career. I still feel as if I have so much more to give, but my body might be telling me that's it, no more, not going through with it. And I thought it was a great, great insight to the whole thing. Me being a tennis fan, I was well into it because I remembered, when they show him trying to make a comeback, I remember watching those matches. When they show him playing a match in Washington until 2:00 in the morning, I watched that match live. I remember watching this and thinking, oh my God, what is going on? And I love the way it's done. I love the way the film ends. And it's something I would recommend, like, even if you don't know that much about tennis. I mean, if you know a lot about tennis and you follow Andy Murray anyway, it elevates it loads. If you don't, it's still a really, really good documentary about a professional sports person. And as I know, Shaun, you quite like it when you have a world that you don't really know that much about, but you're being given access to. And seeing just what goes on behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff, and all the doctor's appointments and the operations and all that. And they interview, like, his opponents, they interview his whole team, and just the way they talk about it and the sort of like interplay between them, I think is amazing. I would give it I'm gonna go for a 4. I think that they did a really, I think they did a really, really good job. There were actually bits, but as I said, obviously with the caveat that I'm a massive tennis fan, there were bits a bit where I actually started getting quite choked up, and I was like, oh my God, I remember when he made that speech. Oh my God!
Oh, you've got to give it a 4 for that. Then
it was so terrible.
If it makes you chuckle or makes you feel quite emotional, then I think you have to say that it's had an effect on you, and that's There were bits where I was definitely feeling a bit choked up, but as I said, that's because I'm a massive tennis fan. I'm an Andy Murray fan, and I actually just want good things for him. I want good things for that guy. All right, cool. So that's it. Resurfacing gets 4 out of 5. And now, Sharon, it is your time. It is your moment to shine. You managed to get a preview screening of A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's Oscar season when they bring out, like, a Tom Hanks movie right close to
Tom Hanks film comes out, yes. Because apparently it's not being released until January generally.
Yeah.
But this, I saw this on a very early preview.
That's what they did with Green Book last year.
Yes, it was well early. So it's about a month ahead of schedule that I saw this on a preview. But yes, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's about if you're an American, you know who Mr. Rogers is,
mm-hmm.
and he was like an iconic childhood star. I mean, if you were a child growing up in America, I think any time between like the 50s and the 70s, you knew who Mr. Rogers was.
Right.
And I've never heard of him. So I had no idea who he was. So this was a bit of a complete, I was going into this as a complete unknown. I did not know who this character was. The closest I can relate to him was like a Playaway's Brian Cant.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah.
He's like that sort of character who is like, he's, when you see him off screen, he seems to be the same on screen as he is off screen. He's got that genuine characteristic about him. And so the story basically is focused. You see all this through the eyes of a journalist played by Matthew Rhys, who's called Lloyd Vogel, who's basically a fictionalised journalist who really did interview Mr. Rogers. Yeah. And he was sent to write a piece for his magazine that he works for. I can't remember the name. Esquire magazine. He was sent to write a piece about American heroes, and it was supposed to be 400 words. Just a little sort of summary of this is just a few quotes, and this is I met Mr. Rogers as an American hero, and he is a cynical journalist who's world weary, who's got from a damaged background. His mother died when he was very young. He's got a very dysfunctional relationship with his father. In fact, he's got no relationship with his father. And so he is the last person you would expect to go and interview someone who has had the reputation even then as being like a living saint. Yeah. Someone who was almost like too good to be true. Too good to be true, yeah. And so this cynical journalist goes to meet Mr. Rogers, and to his to his horror and surprise, there's no side to him. He is as genuine as he appears. I mean, he's compassionate. He's a man of faith. He's a man of compassion and wisdom and insight. But it's not something that comes naturally to him. He says, I do these things every day. I have anger and I have rage, but I have ways of dealing with it. And there's no one I don't meet who I'm not. When I'm with them, they are the most important person I'm with. And when I'm talking to someone, you are the most important person to. And he said, I've worked at this. And everyone who knows him says he's like that with everyone. He genuinely is this genuinely compassionate, man of God who is just a lovely man who basically is the real deal. Yeah. But it isn't an easy journey for him. And so through this sort of meeting this man and forming a relationship with him, they get to know each other quite well through the course of this interview, as it were. It's bit by bit Matthew Rhys's characters begins to examine his own life, and he begins to see where he needs to put the work in his own life to become the man that he ultimately wants to be, the father he wants to be to his young child. So it's one of those films that I think is probably uniquely American. I don't think we in Britain make this sort of film, because we're too cynical. We don't like our heroes to be genuine. We like to find a side to them.
We do.
We like to find.
You're exactly right.
We have these exposés about like Enid Blyton, who and we like the fact that she was not this sweet old lady, that she was a bit of a cow, and so we find that we look for our heroes and we like them to be slightly more flawed. Whereas if this film is anything to go by, this guy seems like he was a genuinely lovely man.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow.
And so it's a really interesting film. So I found it, quite a nice film. In fact, that nice is a horrible word to use because it's so bland. But I found that it's a good film in that it's like goodness does not come easily. It's something that he had to work at. And to be genuinely good is not something that we should be cynical about. Is that we should embrace it and celebrate the fact that there are some genuinely good people around.
Yeah, there are.
And if they happen to be someone who's on our television screens and who has influence on the lives of so many people around them, then that should be something we should celebrate and not look for the cynical and for the. We should try to embrace that better, our better selves. So this really sort of spoke to me. This film, I really enjoyed it.
I think we have this thing in this country of, because you see it in the papers, of building people up, and when they become heroes, we just love to knock them down. It doesn't matter what.
Just want to do it. But I was sat there though when I was thinking about my childhood heroes. I think half of them are in jail. So I think we have.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
In the 70s.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, he's a bit like no, you can't think him because he's in jail. And no, you can't think him because he was arrested for being a paedophile. And I was no. And so I was thinking of who could I say we could compare it to. Exactly. And the only one I could think of was Brian Cant off of Playaway.
Yeah.
And Because I was even thinking, Jeffrey from Rainbow, I was thinking, did he not have a bit of a side as well? So, not that he was anything criminal, but I think there was that bit of a...
look, George, Jeffrey's going out. Well, put more petrol on him.
And but he's the real deal. I get the feeling that he actually genuinely is the real deal.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I think with this, I only ever came across Mr. Rogers because when Eddie Murphy was on Saturday Night Live, he did a parody of Mr. Rogers where he lived in the ghetto and he would come in doing exactly the same thing as Mr. Rogers, and he would have things like his landlord would come around and he would be like, "Kids, my landlord's a scum bucket. Do you know any scum buckets?" "Oh, I bet you do." And that was the only way I was like, it looks like he's parodying something. What is he parodying? And that's how I found out about Mr. Rogers. So with that,
so is Mr. Rogers? Is this true? Is this a true story?
It's a true story.
Yeah,
there
because
generally is an article called about Mr. Rogers, a real hero. Yeah.
Yeah. So the film is pretty much. It's from what I can understand, it sounds like the film is an adaptation of how that article was written.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, how many stars would you give it?
Well, I think following on I think I'm going to have to give this a 4.
Yay!
Because I like the fact this sort of people go on a journey on their stories. So I liked the journey that Matthew Rhys's character went on. I thought it was relatable. I liked Mr. Rogers, and so I'd give it a 4. This appealed to me. This is up my street of the sort of film that I enjoy. So I would give it a 4 for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Right. And if you're an American, that would probably start you singing in the way that if I said underground, overground, people would start singing Wobbling Free. There's certain words will just trigger a song in your head, and so. But yeah, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I liked it a lot.
Oh yeah, cool. And I believe it's directed by the same lady who directed Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Oh, right.
Yay, I thought I would get that reaction.
Right. I liked that. Yeah. I did like that film.
Yeah, I like that film. That was, Can You Forgive Me? That's the plagiarism film, isn't it?
Yeah, so faking letters and things.
Yeah, directed by...
Again, Melissa McCarthy playing against time, but it's excellent.
She was good. She was good.
Marielle Heller. So Tom Hanks, Oscar talk. What do you think about that?
I think, because if you know who this character is, you'd probably say it's Pitch Perfect. I can't compare them, but I gather the feeling that they made such a big effort to make him as like Mr. Rogers as possible that I think, he's yes, they like Tom Hanks.
All
and
right.
they obviously like Mr. Rogers, so I think, yes, it's a good bet.
Cool. Good stuff. And now we come to the final thing of this evening, and this is Papillon. So, Sean,
Papillon, yeah.
Yeah, so, Sean, you saw this on, I think, was it Sky Cinema or something?
Sky Cinema, yeah. I saw this on Sky Cinema because I missed it at I didn't see it at the main cinema. Now...
Yeah, because Papillon, now let's see, when I hear that, I think Dustin Hoffman and Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen, yes, definitely.
The butterfly tattoo on his chest.
Yeah, you've seen Papillon, haven't you?
Oh, dozens of times.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's a film you can watch and watch and watch, can't it? And the music, And
at the end, you want to. I'm not going to give any spoilers.
You've never watched it? Oh, Tosin.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
okay.
There's...
So this is a
Devil's
remake.
Island.
This is a remake, yeah. This was the remake film. I mean, the original... was just great, wasn't it, Chan? I mean,
it's Devil's Island. It's a convict island run by the French, where basically their worst offenders they send to this island, and you're forgotten. That's it. You're there till you die.
Yeah, that's it.
There's no parole. There's no early release. You're on this island, and basically the guards don't really get involved in their lives. They literally run it as like this sort of colony.
It's a colony, basically. Yeah, it's a colony. And if you do bad things, you get thrown into the cooler.
Yeah, but basically it's like a wild.
Yeah. I mean, it is a prison, and there's quite a lot of freedom. But if you do stuff wrong, you are locked in solitary confinement.
So during what time is this? Like, what time period is this set in?
This would be like the I think before the First World War.
Yes,
so around around the 1920s, and basically Papillon was a jewel thief who was supposedly murdered his wife. But he obviously was saying he was innocent and everything. And also on the on the boat going over to Devil's Island, because obviously he's been convicted, and on the boat going over to Devil's Island, you've got this other character played by, in the original was played by Dustin Hoffman, and in this film it's played by what's his? Who's the guy? Malik. No, Charlie Hunnam's playing Papillon, but Rami Malek is playing. Just shows you I can't remember. So I can't. It'll come to me in a minute.
The tiny weedy guy.
Yeah, the tiny weedy guy. But he's like an accountant, and he's really rich, and he manages to hide money away somewhere. So basically, he becomes like obviously some of the criminals are after his money.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Louis Daguerre. Thank you. I should have known that. Louis Daguerre. And Papillon sort of protects him and takes him under his wing. And then Papillon wants to escape, so he keeps coming up with all these ideas to escape. And he ends up getting chucked in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
And I mean, basically, he's put in solitary. He's going to die, but Louis Daguerre manages to get sort of coconut sent to him, which was the same as in the original. So he actually survives, and then when he's free and he comes out and he gets into the story, but all the time he's trying to escape. He's thinking up to ideas to escape, and there's a lot of sort of interaction between it. Now this film, they sort of took elements from the original movie, the Steve McQueen movie. They took elements like obviously the solitary confinement and some of the other stuff that went on, but they tried to put a different take on it, because there's one scene where he's in solitary, and I don't know if you remember in the film, they say they have to put their head through a little hole like that, and the guards come up and put like a stick under their chin, so they got their head stuck up. They put their I thought, they're going to do it the same, but they didn't do that. They did it a slightly different way. They said. So basically, as you can tell probably from my voice, that I was, and I don't like Charlie Hunnam much anyway. Was he in Lost City of Z? Was he in Lost City of Z?
Yes, he was.
Lost City of Z. Yeah.
And what else has he been? He's been in a few other things.
Sons of Anarchy.
Has he? I don't know. I haven't seen that. Was he in King Arthur?
Yeah.
It was in Triple Frontier.
Probably. Oh yeah, I saw him in Triple Frontier because I didn't mind Triple Frontier.
Yeah,
I think we reviewed that.
Yeah.
But he's not really. I'm not a major fan of his, and I think he's probably. Was he in that? Oh, King Arthur. Was that the latest
King
one?
Arthur.
Yeah,
King Arthur, Sword and Legend of the
with
Sword.
Guy Ritchie one. Yeah, Legend of the Sword with old David Beckham going up. But yeah, so not a major fan of Charlie Hunnam, I have to say. Hunnam, or however you call him. So that probably put me off a little bit from the start. But I did watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I was tempted not to. Yeah, sorry.
No. I just have a question. So, okay, because I always wonder when you have a film that is like an undoubted sort of like bona fide classic that everybody talks about, like even if you haven't watched it, you know about the film Papillon, like me. I know who's in it, all that kind of stuff. I always wonder, why do you go make a remake? What is the point of making a remake?
What is the point of it all about?
You have that film there already. So unless it's like, now we have better technology that can show something better, or there's like, there's some resonance with what's going on in the world today or anything like that. I always wonder, why make it again? There has to be a really, really good reason for you to make it again. And I'm guessing that from what you're saying, Shaun, you don't really think that there was a good reason for them to make this again.
No, maybe for people, like of a younger generation, perhaps who would never seen the original Papillon. Mm-hmm. But hopefully, if they do see this, it might make them go and watch the original to contrast and compare, because this is not a patch on the original, and I don't think that's me just being biased, because I like the original so much. I just don't think it quite works.
Yeah,
you haven't got the. What can I say? You just haven't got that.
Well, there's something about Steve McQueen that he's got that edge, hasn't he?
Yeah, but what I think it is, it's again, we come down to the fact of interaction between actors, and the interaction. And with Dustin Hoffman and Steve McQueen, it worked. It really, really worked. That friendship, that companionship, that relationship worked really, really well in the original Papillon. In this, it doesn't quite have that. They just don't seem to be that close. Should we say that close?
Yeah.
That there wasn't that screen relationship.
Chemistry.
Yeah, there wasn't the chemistry between. Thank you, Shan. There wasn't the chemistry between the two guys as there was in the original one for me. And I mean, I don't know if that's I'm being biased about Charlie Hunnam because he's like the latest thing, isn't he? But that was what really, really did it for me. And towards the end, in the end scene in the original, when they're sort of really old, they become really old, and it just didn't, I have to say for that Malik, he just didn't cut the mustard really. So shall we say it was a disappointment? And I don't think it's a disappointment just that I'm being precious about the original. I mean, that's a genuine observation with this one, is that the chemistry wasn't there between the actors. So I can only give this. I'm only going to give this. I mean, I'll give it a 3-star because perhaps there was some bias in that. I don't think there was. I did try to look at this, independently, and
because it's a good story anyway.
Yeah, it's a good story. But it wasn't quite. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So 3-star on that one.
All right, 3 stars, and that's it. So all that's really left now is to say who has won this week. Right, so...
Oh, I think it's going to be close.
So yeah, I don't.
You think it's going to... Or Sean, what do you reckon?
I reckon Cinema's aced it this week.
And Sharon, you reckon it's going to be close?
Yeah, because I thought there's some of the Netflix have had a reasonable... They've had a 4, and a 3. So I think there's 4s and 3s in both sides. So, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, okay. We kicked off with Jumanji: The Next Level versus In Like Flynn. Jumanji: The Next Level, I gave it 3. Sean gave it 4. Good gives us an average score of 3.5. In Like Flynn got 3, so we have 3 versus 3.5. Then we have Honey Boy, which was given a resounding 4 by Sean, and Andy Murray Resurfacing, which is given a resounding 4 by me. And then we had A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which was given a resounding 4 by Sharon. And we have Papillon, which was given a 3 by Sean. So for those of you who have been keeping track of that, I can do really, really quick mental arithmetic. The winner this week is Cinema. By 0.5 of a star.
So, yeah. And I mean, I've been really good. It's been, I mean, I must... considering there was like hasn't been much that's really captured my imagination recently, the past couple of weeks, there's been some really, really good stuff, and hopefully next week I'll get to finish what I've been watching and give that a review.
Oh, if I get some television time, I'll try to watch something.
Yeah. So if you get Amazon Prime, really good. Just watch a couple of episodes of Pennyworth.
No, that's on Stars, isn't it? You have to pay extra for Stars.
Oh, right.
Oh, all right, yeah. But anyway, I'm just gonna go and watch everything that Adam Driver's in next week. So
yeah.
So all right, until that time, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me,
and it's a goodbye from me.
We will see you guys next week when it shall be the Adam Driver Love It. Good night. Night, guys.
See ya.